What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Champion Living Podcast, where we believe that consistency, perseverance, and not taking life too seriously are the keys to success. I'm Doug, the founder and owner and head coach of Champion Living Fitness. Each week, I'll be joined by my coaching staff with the vision of providing trustworthy information about fitness, nutrition, and mindset, and how this all applies to being a professional rodeo athlete, as well as people from all walks of life. Are you ready to become a champion? Let's go. So, fill us in. How did BeastMaster go?
It was good. It was a whirlwind of travel, kind of just blowing in and blowing back out. But, yeah, it was solid. They had like a huge, obviously like everything all planned out with the media team and everything. Couple hiccups, and that was kind of the funny part was like the weather wasn't cooperating, and so like we had to pull the plug on like actually bucking bulls and stuff, and it like Junior felt horrible. Like he was so upset that it wasn't going exactly like as he had it planned, and he was apologizing the whole time. But we're like, dude, it is what it is.
Can't control that.
We'll make the most of what we got. So
yeah. Who all was there?
Oh man, I'm gonna leave somebody out. Joe and Josh Frost, John Young, Gavin Michelle, Marcus Mass, Dakota Warnkin, and Tyler Keyjack, and myself.
Keyjack was there?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So he got to show off like all the new like stock contractor stuff. Like the new pickup shafts with the impact gel and
that's cool.
Halters and all that cool stuff.
They got their pro card now, which is super cool.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, he's putting on some pro rodeos like in places that haven't had them before, like in Indiana and Michigan and stuff. And I'm like, he's expanding the market. I think it's gonna be really cool.
Yeah.
What's the name of their company? Do you know?
TK Pro Rodeo.
Oh, I've seen them. Yeah, I've seen some of those rodeos they've had. That's awesome.
They were the contract. I don't know if you saw it or care, but Twisters, the sequel to Twister, obviously.
Yeah.
That just came out last summer. That was the rodeo.
Didn't we try to have him on this show before?
Yeah. He 100%.
When he was on the the show. Yeah.
He straight up ghosted us. Was like, yeah, I'll be there. So for sure. That's definitely Keyjack. The last time I saw him was in Vegas like 2 years ago, and he was like, so I hear you're running production for Hilo. And I was like, I mean, at some rodeos, yes. And he's like, I want that job. And I was like, hold on just a second. Here, you can have it. I'm giving it to you. And he was like, well, Dustin won't let me come. I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you because you can have that job if you want.
What other new stuff have they got coming out of BeastMaster, Paul? Can you talk about some of it, or is some of it like hush hush?
I don't think anything was really on the DL. Let me scan my brain real quick to make sure I don't speak out of turn.
Wait,
but
BeastMaster is no longer a partner with Champion.
Oops.
Thanks to Paul Lloyd.
Violated.
Oopsie. No, I think like the big talk of the town is all the impact gel products. And I think it seems like they're trying to expand, the application of that and stuff too. But even beyond, like outside of expanding, like refining, like just making everything better and better all the time. So like every time you get a new product out, like that's version 1 pretty much for them, because they're not going to settle with what they have. They're going to continue to do the research development and make it better. And like there were some things that we were doing like already with like rope pads and stuff. We're like, oh, I think there's a like we could get that 1% better if we change, this design or whatever. So just some great stuff going on.
They just unrolled the impact gel, but the reality is that they've been working on this for a long time.
When
Doug and I were there, and what was that, October? When Doug and I were there in October, they were like, hey, like check out this impact gel stuff. We got this. Like it was they've had this in the works. It's not just like, hey, I think this is a good idea. Let's slap it in a pad and throw it on the website. They've been trying to refine this already for, I'm as far as I know, since October. But
yeah, April of last year when I was there, it was the same deal. Like they were already trying to get it.
Yeah, it's pretty.
They just kept tweaking it and tweaking it. They want everything to be like, they want everything to give you the edge, like from the smallest things to, the bigger things. They want to make sure that it gives you that edge that you need, as far as like performance and quality and everything else.
I love that about them, because they really, in all reality,
don't really have to do that because they're
No,
kind
they
of one
don't.
of the only people that do this. They're in this super niche market, right? But they love the sport. They love everything about rodeo. And so they are continually trying to help everyone get better and everyone be, I guess, safer at the end of the day. Control the controllables, right?
Yeah. That's such an
Go ahead,
important
Logan.
thing. You said everyone. Typically speaking, when you talk about like rodeo equipment or even like merchandise, there's a company that the best in the world purchase from, and then there's the company that guys getting started purchase from. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like there's you only see I don't know of any specific examples, but what I love is that I know a lot of guys that come to schools. They've never been on a bareback horse and they're decked out in BeastMaster gear. They also have world champions coming to their media day that are endorsed by them and that swear by their gear. It's the whole spectrum. They make
Mhm.
products that are good enough for the best in the world and affordable enough for those that are just dipping their toes in the water. That's a feat right there. That's hard.
Mm-hmm. And they take advice. They take constructive criticism. They literally ask for it from the world's best, right? They send gear out to NFR qualifiers, world champs, like you were talking about, and they critique it and they say, how can this be better? And they listen. And then all of a sudden you have really awesome gear at a really affordable price. And it's pretty cool to see. I love it.
Yeah.
I love the people there. They're
Yeah.
awesome. I'm glad you guys go there.
One of the new things that I don't know if is out yet, but I think we can probably talk about it. I'm gonna
This is
skip
where he
out on one.
violates his
Yeah, this is where
NDA. Yeah.
yeah, this is where we get in trouble. But bull riding spurs, like you got me thinking about like having like equipment that's affordable for beginners or good enough for the best in the world. They're launching new lines of bull riding spurs like that vary like depending on where you're at or what you want. Because like before, like you have the cheap like that black metal. I don't even know what they just say regular old metal spurs, and then you have like the stainless ones, and then so like beyond just like the different degrees and angles and drops and twists and all that stuff, like there's going to be different qualities and different lines of spurs as well. So I think that's going to be really cool. Give guys some options.
I love it.
Yeah. That is awesome. Speaking of schools, though, Logan, you were just at a school in Montana.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in route longer than I was at the school, but
Yes, you.
but
Yes,
the
you were.
school was incredible. Number one, first thing I have to say, and I need you to keep your hat on. You're not going to be able to fit it on once I say this, Doug. So be careful. Montana is beautiful.
Yes,
It
it
is
is.
absolutely incredible. It's like just the over there, which I'm sure you've been over there, but like it's really cool with like Whitefish, Columbia Falls, Kalispell. Like it's like almost like this tri-cities. Like each one's like 15 minutes away from each other or whatever. But it's down in that valley, similar to where you're at, right? The valley and the mountains. You can't turn your head and not see these just gorgeous mountains. I did not see the tops of the mountains any day that I was there. And it was there some days it was sunny and nice, but the clouds, they were so tall, the clouds like covered the peaks. Anyway, it was just absolutely gorgeous. And we had 6 students, so it was a smaller school. It was me and Azrael Lara, which if you guys aren't familiar with him, he's won the uh, not the oldest division at the junior NFR, but the next oldest. I forget the names of their classifications. There's like novice and anyway, but at any rate, he's won that division twice, and now he's moved up to the last division at the junior NFR. This will be his first year. So, and he rides incredibly well. Like, I mean, yeah, incredibly well. And I could ramble for 20 minutes about the quality of him just as his character. A great young man, and he wanted to put on a school. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. So we ended up with 6 guys. Brash Rodeo, something cool if you're in that neck of the woods. I, of course, am learning all of this. They do a weekly series during the summer on Thursday nights. This it's kind of in town in Columbia Falls there, I believe, and that's where we had the clinic when it wasn't raining, and it was, man, it's great, and the quality of his horses were fantastic to start on, and he had a couple that were like the bottom end of the pen, and he was like, "You want that one again?" Oh yeah, no, just run it back. Like so we had these 2 different ones, Lori and another one. I forget the other one's name, and we could just buck them back to back. And so I only had like 4 guys getting on. And so we were able to, buck a lot of these same horses that were bought them in, and they were fantastic. And then they do a winter series right down the road in the wintertime every other weekend. So it's like, man, what an incredible opportunity for these young guys to get on the right horses year round, make progress year round. That's almost unheard of, so it was really, really cool. It was a great school, great people, beautiful country, good food.
In the north, that is especially unheard of.
Yeah.
Because we have a season of really, really cold. So the fact that they can do that and help these kids keep developing throughout the year is huge, because I think that's part of the holdup, right? Is you get to practice, and then all of a sudden it's like you do nothing for 4 or 5 months, right?
Yeah.
Not that you're doing nothing, but it's nice to be able to get on once a week.
Yep.
And get on really quality animals. What were the pickup men like?
Man, fantastic. And I feel horrible because you asked, and I cannot remember their names, but we had 3, and they were incredible, which, mind you, I bet we bucked 15 or 18 head over the whole weekend, right? We didn't buck a lot, and nobody really got in a terrible bad spot. So they didn't have to work incredibly hard, but they were there. They weren't riding junk. They were where they needed to be when they needed to be there. Chase some kids down that were having a hard time getting their hand out, and so they did excellent. And the first day it was like 61 degrees and sunny when we were bucking, and I'm talking about, I got a sunburn. Like it was awesome. I don't know what it is about the North Country, but 60 degrees and sunny is like our 75. It was beautiful. Sunday, however, it just dumped on us. So we're all like, and it was like,
welcome to Montana, baby.
Yeah. If we're gonna buck, and it was like 45 and dumped on us, and so we all got a little muddy, but it was incredible. The hospitality up there, I've never had a place take care of me. That the non-for-profit that helped Azzy put that school on, they put me up in this little like 1-bedroom cabin. It was amazing, beautiful. And when I walk in, Azzy and the board had like put together like a welcome basket with not just things for me, but for my kids and wife. Like huckleberry is all the thing up there, right? And so like huckleberry licorice and candies and like some like Montana coffee roasters coffee, and anyway, just a bunch of stuff. It was amazing. You just go and you're like, they appreciate that I'm here.
Yeah.
And it felt really good. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. The way home wasn't great. I spent like 36 hours in transit. Partly my fault because I'm an idiot. And then the other part, just weather. So
I have a theory about flying through Denver, and you don't do it past noon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do not do it past noon in the summertime or springtime, because 50-50, you're getting out of there, I swear.
Yeah.
Every time it happens.
Yeah.
Get canceled, staying at a hotel, you're like, son of a gun. And you have to be up at 4 a.m. to get on the next flight. Not to mention you slept through your first flight.
Yeah, that's what they wanted me to do. And because they were like, we're going to try to leave at 6, but keep your phones on you. I'm like, fat chance, dude. I've been in transit since 6 this morning, like waiting on going home. I'm not like going to just like sleep with my phone on near me. So I'm like, I looked and I had to fly United. I usually fly Southwest, but I was on United. And so I could just change my flight for free. And so I'm like, 1:27 p.m. departure. You bet. Whack. And so, I was planning on sleeping in, which my biological clock did not let me do. However, I was able to just kind of have like a relaxing, like reset moment, and it was good. It was good. I was definitely ready to be home. I finally walked in the door at like 7:45 on Tuesday, and I was supposed to be home at like maybe 2:45 on Monday. So it was, 2 days of travel, but we're home now, and I've actually got Zach Meyerless. He's a client of mine. And he's at the house. He just got here this morning. We're just going to ride the spur board and train and hang out and kick it today and tomorrow. And the kids have a barrel race tonight they're going to go to, and Zach's going to ride along with us. So anyway, we're just hanging out.
Sick.
Yeah.
You're so busy.
It's self-inflicted for sure. So I know that statement was not a pity statement, or you feel, but I just want you to know that I know that I'm an idiot. So it's a lot.
That I know that you know.
Yeah, we all know.
There's no secret here.
This was a very bad. No, it's good. I'm excited. Zach is a great young man, and I'm excited to kind of get to know him. And he's like, I don't have an agenda. I just wanted to come see the bunkhouse and hang out. So
That's what I mean. You built that thing for a reason. It's getting used.
exactly
That's
right.
awesome.
Yep. He's just gonna do.
You should add life lessons, like teach them how to do laundry. They can wash the sheets and stuff when they're done.
Exactly
Fold
right.
them.
Yeah. Here's how to.
Have you held a baby before? Here you go.
Yeah.
This is how this works.
I was like, if you get here before 9, I can show you around. But I have a podcast from 9 to 10, and he's like, all right, no worries. So I like showed him the barn and
I have
showed him
8
around the
kids
place,
that are going to bug the living
yeah.
shit out of you during that hour.
I told the kids, I was like, if you ask him really nice, he might take you fishing. So he got here 15 minutes ago, and I think he's taking the kids fishing while we're on the podcast. So and putting him to work, childcare. So
Hey, I'd be a babysitter for that. We get to go fishing all day. Cool.
yeah,
Let's go.
heck yeah,
Deal.
you bet.
Go wander through the woods.
Yeah.
Hold on. I was taking a sip of water. Yeah. I want to jump into some interesting stuff. A study do high GI carbs equal more hunger? So they're testing the carbohydrate insulin model. So short-term metabolic responses to consumption of meals with varying glycemic index in healthy adults. Logan, from our CSCS, do you remember what the glycemic index is?
Well, I mean, I do remember the glycemic index. I'm not going to be able to give you
roughly
examples of stuff that's on there.
No, like what is it though?
Well, the glycemic index, that's a great question. I want you to take it back over because I'm going to sound like an absolute idiot.
You're first. I want to hear this.
Man,
you sound so confident.
Well, it's like it's the digestive. It has to do with the rate at which carbohydrates are digested.
Yes,
Thank
exactly.
you.
Okay,
It was a pop quiz.
Look at it.
How quickly they raise the blood sugar levels.
Thank you. There you go.
So this study. God,
you Googled that.
I did Google it.
I saw you.
I was gonna say that's what it was, like how it
Logan?
affects the blood sugar, but like I wasn't actually sure, and so I did.
Yeah, then you Google. I saw you. You're like, you can't see your phone on the screen though. Your phone. You made sure to hold your phone in your lap, and then your head stayed looking at the camera, and then I could just see your little eyes.
Well, I've got two monitors, so it's like real sneaky.
Yeah, that way.
Don't hate the player, hate the game, Logan.
Yeah,
that for sure. I don't even know where my phone is. I can't Google anything right now.
All right. So in the study, they tested the effect of consuming a meal that contains high, medium, or low glycemic index carbs on metabolic responses and hunger in healthy, normal weight adults. So the participants consumed meals that included 60% carbohydrates and either spaghetti with a glycemic index of 35, buckwheat noodles, a glycemic index of 65, or steamed bread that has a glycemic index of 73. And along with a meal, they had their energy intake, glucose, insulin, and hormonal responses to food measured along with energy intake with a subsequent meal. So it's pretty well rounded, it seems to me, what they're actually testing. It's not just one specific thing. They're testing all of the things. What they ended up finding was there was a significant increase in energy intake following the medium and high GI meals compared to the meal with the low GI carbs, but there were no differences in self-reported hunger between groups or energy availability. The higher GI meals also led to higher initial glucose and insulin responses, while the low GI meals maintained higher glucose levels at 300 minutes compared to the medium and high GI meals. So what does this mean? This basically means that the study showed eating a whole wheat spaghetti with a GI of 35 led to lower energy consumption and better blood sugar responses compared to having buckwheat pasta or steamed bread, which have the high GI loads of 65 or 73, respectively. At first glance, this might have you thinking that low GI carbs are best to minimize hunger and energy intake. However, this conclusion is not consistent with other research, and this study has numerous limitations to consider before you think about switching your diet purely based off of low GI. So
that's interesting.
You see, it just brings me back to all of these things that you see, right? Like all of these, I hate to call them fad diets, but these things that rise up and they're like, cut this out and you'll lose all this weight or this will happen. And most of it's BS, right? And the things that you just have to look further. You got to look deeper. And a lot of times when you just take 1 or 2 steps deeper, you're like, ooh, this ain't right. Yeah. Even we were looking at stuff for sleep training, right? There's so many studies about sleep training for a baby that show one way or the other is right and the other way is so wrong. And I look at these studies, 8 people are tested during it. And I'm like, okay, rewind. Like I look at my wife, like throw that away. That study is worthless. It means nothing. I can find you one that says the same exact thing with 5 people studied in it. Like it needs to be on a broader spectrum. That's not the point of this thing. But I was just saying, like do a little research and start thinking about those things. But I see all these people. It's just the next thing. Like I think monitoring your glucose or your insulin, if you are trying to lose weight or have really strict goals or a health reason to do that, absolutely.
Yep.
But remind me what the actual thing that they were looking for was. Was
that
it
high
hunger?
GI carbs make you hungrier. So if you eat the bread or you eat the buckwheat, you're going to be actually hungrier from eating those post, right? And there was no difference in the satiation, like their levels of satiation, I guess, right? They were all full. The only difference was the glucose levels in the blood after 300 minutes compared to the medium and high. The lower GI maintain a higher glucose level at 300. So it just seems that the glucose will dip faster if you are consuming medium or high.
Yeah, more peaks and valleys.
Yeah, GI meals. But I just thought it was interesting.
It is really interesting. I've gotten back into reading the journal before bed. Just sometimes I make it through a whole article. Sometimes I make it through a page. But one of the ones it caught my eye the other day, and I read the whole thing, was about, I was talking to Paul about it, but it's the effects of high intensity interval training. And they tested their cognitive ability in the recovery window of up to 48 hours after, as well as their physical performance. And they tested like a mid thigh pull and a counter movement jump. So that was kind of the physical aspect. But then they also tested this the SCAT, like the concussion test on the computer, right? Cognitive. They tested some reactive agility drills with the light up deals, where you have to, go where it lights up and tap it. And what was crazy to me, because I was really interested in it, because that's the number one modality for rodeo athletes. High intensity interval training is what they all love to do. They love to work really hard, sweat a lot, puke and pass out. And then it was like a successful workout. And what they found in this study was actually up to 48 hours after a high intensity interval training session, their cognitive abilities were actually elevated. Their reactive agility was actually elevated. And number one, that told me what we've already known just through our experiences. One of the things, Doug said many times, I like to work out before our podcast because I just feel like it turns my brain on, right? And so getting the heart rate up and getting going is something that can help cognitive performance, right? Like up to 48 hours after. However, the effect that it had on their physical performance, it decreased their power output significantly. So the takeaway for me was that if there's some decision-making type stuff that has to be done, then I don't think that it's harmful. It's not as harmful as I once thought. I went so hard away from high intensity interval training because that's all I used to do, and I was fragile. So decision-making stuff, it's great, right? Performance, if you're riding on Friday and you're doing some sort of high intensity interval training on Wednesday, like it may deter performance to a degree. Now, mind you, the differences in their baseline were minuscule on the cognitive benefits being up, as well as the power or the physical benefit, or the detriments being down. We're talking about hundreds of a millisecond, right? But there were consistent differences between baseline and post. Similar, they tested like maybe 12 hours, 24 and 48, and the effects lasted all the way out to 48 hours of this, like either better decision making or cognitive ability and decreased power output up to 48 hours after a session. So anyway, I was like, that's really interesting. I don't know exactly. I'm still kind of processing. I don't know exactly what I do with that information, if I do anything. Mind you, also, like you said, they tested 20 handball athletes. They're not rodeo athletes, and a sample size of 20 is very small. I do think that there's something there, but I don't know that it changes any of the way that I program. But it definitely is something to tuck away in the back of the brain and keep an eye on for rodeo athletes in the future.
That definitely is. I'm just like thinking about that a little bit, processing in my head, because I could think about what classifies it as high intensity hit training,
Yeah,
right?
and that's I probably need to. I should have had the article in front of me to be able to talk about like what they did, but they
No
had them
doubt.
doing like, I want to say that the one of the things they had them doing was like these shuttle runs, and so it's elevated heart rate. I mean, those shuttle runs are not easy, 200 meters or something like
They
that.
suck. 300
Yeah,
meters.
and they
Yeah,
had
they're
to
the
do
worst.
multiple of those. So it's a pretty,
Brutal.
now exactly what they classified as far as like, heart rate metrics and stuff like that at time, times at different heart rates. I can't tell you off the top of my head, but
I just wonder. So in my head, I'm thinking like, okay, for cognitive effects, right? You want to be more on point. You're getting the blood flow, and you want to be thinking better, in a better mood. I don't think that you have to go do for example, the interval sprints that they're doing, right?
yep,
The 25
yep,
back, 50 back, 75 back, 100
yep,
back. Like
yeah,
it in my head, it could be as simple as even go like Tabata, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. You
yes,
did air squats for 2 minutes. You rested for 2 minutes or a minute. You did push-ups the same way. You rested for a minute. You did, a hollow hold. And then you were like, okay, I'm good. My brain I feel like that is HIIT. It's a
yep,
version of HIIT,
yep,
but it's not nearly the same intensity that right. I feel like there's so many different methods that can be used with HIIT. And
yep,
so I also think with the one that I listed, I don't think a guy's going to be that sore from that. I think that could even be get the day started on a rodeo
yeah,
day,
yeah, you're exactly right.
So you gotta, that's why fitness is so wild, because it's so gray. Everything and nothing's black and white. There's like 5 things that are black and white, like these foundations, right? And then
Yeah,
everything else is, it's, if it works, cool. And you have actual methodology and a reason that you're doing it, and you can explain that. I think it's awesome. But I
yeah.
don't get boxed in. You're a peacock, man. You got to fly.
Yeah, definitely don't, because as soon as you think something's black and white, then all of a sudden it changes, right? A new study
Yeah.
comes out and it changes. And so I used to read those studies before I went to the weight room at SIU. I used to read those studies, and I put a lot of weight in what these studies were saying, the sample sizes of 20 or 30 or 100 people. And I was like, oh man, it's cutting edge. And the reality is that like, if I were to read articles every day for a year and then take the average of the common themes, that would be a good approach. Any one singular research article has very little weight,
Or
and
just see what
I
it does with your actual people.
yes,
Like,
yep,
personal
that's exactly
experience.
right. So
I,
it's
Go
just
ahead.
this idea of like education, right? And
Yeah,
continuing to try to
I
stay on top
agree.
of it
I
and
agree.
pay attention. And we can really easily settle into a groove. And it's like, I found this thing that works. I've been programming the same way for a while. I feel like it's good. And it doesn't have to be, I'm not saying change for the sake of change, but I want to continue to grow
Get
and learn.
better.
And yeah, and get and become better as a coach, and I think that reading journal articles is not the most efficient way to get there, but it's like, takes me 10 minutes of an evening before I go to bed, and I'm like, boom, okay, I feel like I maybe learned something interesting today.
Mm-hmm. That's cool, man. I enjoy reading these studies. I think it's, the education part you're talking about. How many athletes do we talk to that they train a certain way because they like it, but that's it. Like they don't really know why, right? There's no actual, I do it because it improves my power. It improves my upper body strength. It improves my mobility. Like they don't know. They have no idea. And I'm not throwing shit at anybody. I'm just saying, like,
Yep.
it'd be better to know. I think I like to know these things. The problem I have with all of these studies, or at least how some people can process them, is that black and white.
Mm,
Like, this came out, it is written on paper, it is the only way. That
yeah.
is BS.
Yep.
That
Yep.
is how you lessen your value as a coach, I think.
Yep.
Because that's the only, you can never get better then. If it's black and white, that's it. That's just the way it is. You never get to evolve on that, right? And I've said this before, but I know many coaches that are not a CSCS, that are not that certified, don't have the credentials, and I would choose any day of the week
Mm,
over tons of people that are credentialed, because they use that credential as this is the only way it is, and that ain't
yep.
it. And that's never how we've done anything, right? Like even in our OPAs and any of our training that we do, we're always finding new ways to improve, to get better, whether it's a new coaching cue or a totally new methodology like that. We just realized we were doing something that was working, but this could work a lot better. Right. For instance, this OPA I don't even know if we're supposed to talk about this yet. I might be really violating an NDA here, but like, we're doing VALD testing on all of our OPA athletes at this bull riding school. And so what that means is this is literal clinical testing on it's going to be nuts, dude. Like the ability to generate power, the ability to absorb force, the mobility, your strength throughout that range of mobility. We will have actual numbers. So we have the PBR team coming in. Their testing team is going to come in and work with all these guys. And we're going to have actual numbers as coaches. We will get to see where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are. We will get to see where they stack up among each other. And then once we get to do more of these tests, we'll get to have actual data that is sport specific to bull riding, which I hope will eventually be able to lead over to our horse riders and then hopefully the rest of rodeo. But we've got some really cool things coming up like that, that are helping educate and helping you see the real life, how it works. Like, why is this important, right? Why is doing a glute mobilization important? Because at first glance, most people are like, that's stupid. Why would I do that for bull riding? Why would I do that for rodeo? Why would I do that for life? I just worked with a bunch of firefighters. I had them do the same thing. Showed them. They looked at me like I was absolutely out of my mind. Like, what? I thought you were a coach. I thought we were going to work out. You know what I mean? But you start showing numbers that say, hey, your glute med is super weak. You have a big imbalance between your glutes. It could be side to side. It could be between each glute muscle. Like, it's awesome. We get to see all this stuff in real life, and they're going to get to associate that all with the exercises that we show them to correct all these things or help those things. That only helps just improve the culture and what we're doing, right? It's awesome. I'm excited. There's lots of cool things coming up, and these studies are great, but you gotta grain of salt, baby.
Yep.
Like, take what works from it. It is not the law.
No.
Right?
No, I completely agree. I think the biggest thing that I learned through that whole process of getting my CSCS is that you're never right. You're just simply less wrong.
Less wrong.
And it gave me a little bit more of a window. It opened up my mind to realizing that there's more than one way to skin a cat. And as simple as that sounds, it took me going through that process to realize that our principles, there are some really bedrock foundations of strength and conditioning that haven't changed in 40 years because there's thousands and thousands of research papers around them, right? The rep ranges for whether strength or power or whatnot. And there's some of these like modalities that are 100% proven. But the reality is that stuff is changing every day in our industry. And so it's important that you're malleable and that you're willing to bend and that you're willing to learn, and that I'm like willing to, one of the things that I think I want to do is like things I was wrong about this year. You know what I'm saying? And not according to my wife. We're talking about strength and conditioning, but like things that, because things have changed. One thing, for example, I was talking with some guys the other day in a biomechanics talk about, when I first hired a personal trainer, they were not a rodeo athlete. They knew nothing about rodeo, and they trained me, and they assumed that grip strength was incredibly important. And naturally, I was like, my hand's wedged in there. It doesn't matter. Like, grip strength is not important. And so I carried that with me as a personal trainer for quite a while inside the world of rodeo. Like, grip strength it's not a thing that we really need to train. You're either hands wedged in or you're tied in your bull rope or whatever. But the reality is that the CNS and your grip strength, having those dynamometers and testing, a lot of big programs will test their athletes using grip strength, and based on their baseline numbers, they can determine how fatigued their central nervous system is at any given point in time.
Yeah,
and that
can
like
predict
started
readiness.
Say what?
It can predict readiness.
That's exactly right. And so it started to change my mind about like, well, having monstrous forearms certainly isn't a predictor of being a good rodeo athlete, but it's definitely not something that needs to be ignored, which is what I was doing before. I was ignoring it, right? Like, we'll get our grip strength and our carries. Do I still do that? Sure. They get grip strength and carries, but I also spend some time on a weekly basis with my rodeo athletes training grip strength, because I do think that it is a valuable part. It's a valuable piece of the puzzle. Just because you can't see the validity of a piece of the puzzle if you take that piece out, the puzzle's still incomplete. And there's so much that has to be done. And I think that that's where rodeo athletes get a lot of their work trying to put a puzzle together, and they're missing 20 pieces. They if they don't see how it transfers to the arena, or they don't feel how it transfers to the arena, then they skip it or they leave it out. And the reality is that all the pieces have to be there, maybe in different doses, but we have to have all the pieces of the puzzle to really try to, or the best to the best of our knowledge anyway, so that we can create the most complete, prepared, ready rodeo athlete, or human being for that matter. Stay at home mom.
Yeah, I mean, grip strength is a predictor of longevity too.
Yep.
Like for life, if you're being able to live a longer, healthier life, you've got to be able to pick things up and put them down. But yeah, man, you don't know what you don't know, and it's really easy to just fall into your own beliefs and your, especially if you're just in the same bubble all the time, right? You're not getting out and getting new points of view, or get introduced to new points of view, right? Pretty easy to do in today's world, getting stuck in your own little bubble, especially on Instagram and all that stuff. And it's
Instagram literally creates an echo chamber, because whatever you enjoy viewing, it feeds you more of.
It just makes you think you're more and more correct on everything. So
yeah,
it's a wild times, but you're right, Logan. Absolutely right about all that. And it's what are you guys doing for your athletes now? We're getting a busy time. Reno's going to get kicked off here before long. Like, summer run is. Where did the year go? Where are we?
Know, right? Isn't that crazy? You love it
just
when I
doing
talk
this
about
episode last year.
The NFR's coming up. The
NFR is coming up.
It is coming up.
It's gonna be here before we. It's gonna be here before we know. I talked to Skip the other day, and I'm like, so, like, where are we on? Like, where are we at? Like, what are we? And anyway, he was giving me the details and getting me fired up about it. So I'm super excited about it. However, I just directly answer the question, a lot of my athletes, especially my bareback riders and saddle bronc riders that I train, which is the bulk of my client load, we just swapped. We will be swapping on Monday. So when this podcast comes out, will be day one of quote unquote in season. And so typically our in season program is going to include some power, a little bit, a couple times a week, but it's a lot of mobility. And then a little bit of pump, because I'm a bro at heart, and most of my clients are a bro at heart, and a little bit of pump's not going to hurt them. And they're going to feel good when they get done. They're going to like feel jacked,
Are they carrying bands, or what are they?
Yeah. So it's bands and a slam ball is what I ended up going with, a 20-pound slam ball and some bands. They can throw that in their rig. They can pack it around. I even built a Amazon cart with the stuff in it, the stuff that I would recommend, and sent that link out. And it was like $56 or something, right? Like very affordable.
Yeah.
And so I sent it to those guys like, hey, if you don't have these to pack with you, you're going to want this summer. And so the workouts are very, I say customizable, but in that I wrote them where the mobility exercises are 2 to 3 sets based on the time that they have available. The power exercises are 3 to 4 sets based on the time that they have available, because the rest is obviously much longer in the power. And there's one power exercise on maybe Tuesdays and one on Thursdays. And so it's designed to be done between 20 and 35 minutes is kind of how I wrote that. A very general warm up, do something. Don't care what it is, move. And then a handful of mobility exercises. And then there's a little bit of mobility, there's some power, and then there's a little bit of mobility / pump. And that's the workout. And so it's easy for them to do in the parking lot of a rodeo, in the parking lot of a hotel, in a hotel gym, wherever they might be. There's really, the goal is to write something that there's no excuse. There's no justifiable excuse.
You said you're making it. We're doing a little bit of power through the end season. When I think of power, I think like power clean, snatches, and I know that is not what we're doing. So what, can you explain that a little bit? Man,
I will admittedly say that I have a bias, probably an unhealthy bias, towards broad jumps. And I think that a good broad jump, the motion of the legs And as you explode out, right, it's kind of like setting your feet, but then you have to be able to bring the knees up towards the chest and reach the legs out in front of you to stick the landing, to have a good broad jump. And it's like very similar to a spurring motion.
What would you do for a calf roper?
So for a calf roper, there's a lot of different things, but really and truthfully, as far as like power is concerned, for any kind of like roping event, I really like upper body power, right? Like, and which we have some in our bareback riding program as well, or saddle bronc riding. But like for calf ropers, any kind of like even like a banded, some sort of like banded high pull where we are ripping on that sucker. We're not doing a lot of reps, as we've talked about before on power, but like I lean on like a broad jump for, a lot of rough stock athletes, and then some sort of upper body. I think that the first kind of a chapter is of this in-season program is going to be their ball slams, right? Some mid ball slams, but something that is extremely fast, extremely dynamic, with plenty of rest and a short work window to keep them firing.
What do you do for so I was thinking calf roping, steer wrestling, got to dismount horses. What are you doing in season with athletes like that? What do you call that? Do you call it rate of force development?
Well, I mean, yeah, rate of force development, but a lot of like the what's taking a beating for the majority of those guys, calf ropers and steer wrestlers, is their knees. Mm-hmm. And so there's a ton of with those kind of guys, there's a ton of like it's not their rehab exercises, but I call them prehab, right? And so it's a lot of like
stability.
Yes, it's a lot of something else I include across events. Doesn't matter what event you're in season, a lot of isometric holds, right? Mm-hmm. Like different isometric holds that are good for tendon health and helping heal and maintain in the integrity of tendons. And so like there's a lot of isos in there too, but I would lean even more into the isos probably for my timed event guys that are dismounting, that are getting off at a high rate of speed. And so the main thing for those guys is force absorption. Right? Yeah. Like, do they have to produce force? Yes. But they have to be able to absorb force from the ground, right? And the calf roper in his dismount has to be able to, if you're not good at absorbing, internalizing, and then producing, right? Like, then things are not going to go well for you. And especially, it's a very violent absorption of force in the steer wrestling, right? And so anything, like, I love, an exercise, I think you posted a demo video of the other day where like it was a snap down, or you maybe had a snap down in there with snap down jump or something. But at any rate, like I love like snap downs. I love like depth drops. I love those kind of things that are gonna we can control the amount of force that your body has to absorb, and we can slowly step that up over time, and we can build really good mechanics around absorbing force, which is going to play out over the length of your career and the longevity of your knees and of your hips and ankles.
It's so important. I made that post about power and about me more quote unquote explosive, right? But the three things you just talked about are all part of being powerful, right? You have to master the first thing before you get to the second thing. And a lot of times, especially when we're doing jumping or anything like that, you need to learn how to land before you learn how to jump. Yes. Because if you can't absorb and recreate that force again, it doesn't do us a whole lot of good, right? It also sets you up for injury and when you're training, and that's not what we're looking for. But my post, which is kind of why when you brought up my post, it made me think about like bilateral before unilateral, and vertical before horizontal. It's pretty simple, but we see a lot of people wanting to jump to that sexy stuff, right? And they've never even done a broad jump. They've never even done a depth drop, you know? And they want to go do single leg lateral hops, and it's like, we got some
two legs. I mean, it's essentially 2 legs up and then 2 legs out, and then 1 leg up and then 1 leg out. It's kind of the natural progression that a guy should be moving through. If you've never done just a regular, squat jump, counter movement jump, then we probably don't need to be doing like, big leaping bounds, single leg bounds or single leg hops or those kind of things. I mean, that's the natural progression anyway, is that like if we were to get you on some sort of plyometric program, that's the order of events, if you will.
No, I think it's important, man. It's so important for this part of the year because I've been talking about I have fewer rodeo athletes than ever. I have fewer athletes than ever, right? Been working on a lot of different stuff. You guys have been, it's kind of cool to watch you guys flip the the scene kind of, and you are filled with all these guys that are potentially going to make the NFR. That are it's awesome to watch you guys see these grow these communities. It's awesome. But I've been talking with a few that I have about why we're doing what we're doing, because as a coach, I've done a shitty job in the past of actually explaining why we do what we do, right? Granted, no one's really asked me. Clients are really good about that, not asking, and then, not saying anything about the issue, and then they just don't want to, they're afraid to ask or something. I swear I'm not mean. Like, I'm really reasonable guy. You guys might say differently, but it's the residuals training. You got to remind the body that we still do these things, and that we've built all of this over the last quote unquote preseason and early season to get to this point that we can maintain the rest of it for the entirety of the season. And we've got a long few months coming up for these guys.
I think the why is extremely important, like you said. In fact, I made a video this morning, a Loom video, for a lot of my clients about in-season workouts starting Monday. And I went through every day, and I went through the exercises that are in the day, and I went through why those exercises are in the day. And so, like, doesn't work for everybody, but compliance, their desire to accomplish the workout, to actually log the workout, typically speaking, goes up if they can connect it to the why, right? And so every phase, we've kind of been like more what I would call maybe preseason workouts up to this point, where we're still lifting, pretty regularly, but they're rodeoing on the weekends. Say, well, they're about to. I've got quite a few clients that are, they're fixing to take off and they're not coming home, and so every phase of workouts, I make a training on, like, just a brief one, but like, hey, this is what we're going to be doing in this first section. This is why we're doing these exercises. This is the rationale behind it, and this is what I hope to accomplish by doing it. And it like the compliance and getting guys fired up about a new phase of workouts, instead of like they just open their app and they see, oh, the workouts are different now. Cool. Why are my workouts different? What are we doing? Right. And so, like, that I think is super important in providing the why behind things have changed, and something that I've grown in. I didn't used to do that. I used to just kind of like text a client, be like, hey, like, how's things going? Oh, good. I'm headed off to rodeo starting next week. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll make the workouts reflect that. And I would change them. But now I've started like trying to give them all the why, and it gets them fired up. It gets them excited to train while on the road.
I think everyone's done that as a coach.
Yeah.
Like, you learn and you get better, or you don't and you lose clients.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, right? But one thing I think we put our clients, like, they're the first thought in our head when we're doing all this, right? And they always have been. And so all of the things that we change. Yeah, I know it is. First thing Logan thinks of, last thing he thinks of when he goes to bed. Oh, I love my clients. Yeah, I love this community. Actually, you're probably not wrong. Second to his family, of course.
Yes.
Maybe, and third to God. There you go. All right, I got him in order. Damn it! I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry. I did that. That's I put a penny on the train tracks. I was the one that wrecked the train.
I will say, on the topic of like educating your clients, I did have a really neat experience this week. So we're all in person. I've worked with like half the guys that were there this week. I'm not gonna name names to call anybody out, but one guy's coming back from injury, and he's like, "Yeah, I got I'm out for 6 weeks," and we're like, "Oh, well, when are you gonna enter again?" He's like, "When I get released, like the day of." And one of my clients was like, I don't think I would do that. And then he started to explain why he would need to go through like some type of reconditioning phase. And I was like, it's like a proud dad moment right here. I was like, this is awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I'm just going to step back here and listen.
Yeah.
That's the best part of what we do, is it's not just about the people that we work with. It's the tools that we give the people that we work with that can go out and give it to other people, right? Like, it's literally like, I feel almost it's like I don't even know what the word I'm looking for here, but it's like, it's the gospel of strength and conditioning for rodeo athletes. You know what I'm saying? Like, go and multiply. Like I want them to go. I want them to not be scared to look different behind the buck and shoots in their warm up, and then I want other people to come up and be like, "What are you doing?" Like, why are you doing that? And then they get an opportunity to educate them, not so that that person will come be my client, which would be great. And I would love that. And I'm not going to turn them away, but that's not the heart behind it. The heart behind it is that the sport needs to be different. And in 10 years from now, we can look back and I can see some 16-year-old that I've never met or seen before in my life doing dead bugs before he gets on. And I can like, I'm just going to be like, man, I think we helped with that. Like I think part of that is us. Like, that's what it's about. It's changing the sport through one athlete at a time. One athlete at a time. And they take these tools and give them to other people. It's phenomenal. That's what it's about.
That's what we're doing, one athlete at a time. That's why it's taking us so long.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think we've even yes, I don't think we've even scratched the surface of what's coming in the future.
Take the field tip out of that arrow before you hurt someone.
Yeah, I have. So I this is one of the things I missed.
Waving the
target
around
when I first started shooting.
This broadhead.
I missed the target and I freaking whacked the garage and it blunted the tip. And so anyway,
it still shoots. Trust me.
Yeah, I'm just gonna like make a pen out of it. Maybe, I don't know.
You would.
Anyway, yeah, I think that we're just beginning, really. I mean, now like with all this research, especially like partnering up with PPR teams and being able to get into some research and stuff, it's like, man, it's been child's play up till now. You think what we've done so far has been cool? You wait for the next chapter. You wait to see what's coming. It's going to be incredible.
Turn the page.
All right, Bob.
Oh, it's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Big things are coming. You guys got any announcements for your communities coming up? We're just getting into summer runs, so I know you guys, Logan, you had openings coming up. Paul has openings.
Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna do this isn't necessarily related to my community, but if you're listening to this and you're interested, just keep your eyes out because I think on the 9th of June, I'm gonna do a webinar on in-season training and just a little bit of like some tips nutritionally around recovery, as well as fueling for performance, as well as training for performance, and what it could or should look like in the summertime. And it's going to be open to anybody, right? It's probably, if I charge any money, it will be $1. And you'll come, and then there'll be resources that you can take away, you can walk away with you. But it's just this like an opportunity to get more information out around. I still hear a lot of like, no, I haven't been working out because I've been rodeoing. Okay, I understand that the workouts should look different. Here's an idea of what they can look like. And if you really want to feel good at the end of the summer, here's some tips around recovery and around nutrition and so on and so forth while you're on the road. So I'm really excited about that. It'll just be a cool opportunity to get it. I'm going to give it out. Like I'll have all my clients will be there. All my rodeo clients that want to will come. And then I'll take in people that aren't clients that are willing to come learn.
Yeah, something I'm gonna do. I haven't quite put the feelers out yet, so I want to see like what guy, like if this would be something people would be interested in. But this has been something I've been thinking about for the last couple of weeks, and then I really understood how important it is. I've been traveling for pretty much the last 7 days, and like to be completely honest, have not worked out because that was due to poor planning. So for 7 days, I haven't done anything. I'm like, wow, this can really get away from you if you're not paying attention. And so I want to sort of gamify the summer run a little bit. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like yet, but I want to create like a little, not quite a competition, but maybe kind of like a challenge or something, where we can get together as a group again. Like, it doesn't really have to be event specific, but like maybe just come up with some things that are going to help. Like if you do them every day, like that's my biggest thing is like the process. If you do these couple things every day, like you will make progress. And so I want to kind of outline, maybe what that would look like. But I think if people would be, first of all, like I said, I want to put the feelers out on Instagram maybe and see if people would be interested in doing something like that. But like have just like a little group of accountability and gamify the summer a little bit just to keep everybody like on task. Because if you're, especially if you're traveling with people that don't work out, it makes it even harder to like stay committed to those things. And I think that if we could get, even if you're traveling partners,
8 minutes of mobility, and then add like an optional that makes
super
it 20
small.
or something.
Something super small. Just check this off, and if you check all these boxes, then you're at least doing something to get you better.
I'm in.
I am too. I'll play the
I'm
game.
down. You can.
But both of you guys talking about this, like even your own life experiences, just being so busy and not being able to get in the gym when you want to, when you need to, because you didn't plan it out correctly, right? It gets away from you quickly, like Paul was saying. And same here. Like I said, I don't even know. I think I talked about it on one of the episodes, but when I went hunting the other day, I packed my pack way too heavy, and I like really strained my quad. I had to go get it dry needled yesterday, still sore. Been doing all the things I can to rehab it, and the PT's like, yeah, you're doing all the right exercises, like keep doing those. But it got away from me. The time got away so quick, and I realized when I look back now after having the little injury, quote unquote, I'm like, oh, you trained like maybe 2 days a week for the last 4 months. You haven't back squat anything like of even your body weight. Like it that makes total sense that happened, right? And so since then, I've been adamant about getting this shit in, even if it's at 8 p.m. after we put the little men down. It's the only time I had. I'm going to do it because I have to. Like I need to do it for me, right? So that is kind of the approach that you kind of just have to take. It's not always pretty. It's definitely not easy. But if you really, really, really want to do it, go freaking do it. Just do it. And if you can write it into your day and do it in the morning, it's the best thing ever. Because I've been on the roll this week. I've hit, what day are we on? Friday, I've hit 3 out of 5 in the morning, first thing in the morning. And my day's better. Everything feels better. Like did before the podcast, I feel better, right? Feel sharper. It's a non-negotiable. And if it's really that for you, make it that way.
Yeah, like you have to sacrifice what you want now for what you want later. That goes for everybody, but especially for rodeo athletes. What you want now is not to do mobility. I totally understand that. You literally just want to crack a cold one and freaking do something.
Dude, when they're at that point, literally crack your cold one and do your mobility at the same time. I do not care. Like,
yeah, just do. But it's like it's not about how you feel. I get it. You're tired. I get it. You're exhausted. Like you've been rodeoing. It takes 5 minutes. Like do it. Like done. Yes. You have time. You've been on Instagram for 45 minutes today. Like you have the time to do it. It's just how committed to the process are you going to be? How committed? And the tail of the tape, I mean, it doesn't lie. At the end of the year, like those that have outlasted are because they're the ones that are willing to do what nobody else is willing to do.
When you were talking about the feelings part of it, you're tired and all that. There's so much of life, if you can get it through your head, that just feelings don't matter in this part. Like you just have to go do the thing because that's what needs to get done.
Yeah.
And that's where that, highlight film at the end of the year shows those guys that did that. They're at the top every time. So, oh man, that's such a hot button for just so much.
I found it. I like you're talking about that. Like I was talking about, like I looked at a picture this morning. I'm going to find it and show you guys. I looked at a picture this morning and it was from 5 years ago. I like typed it up as a draft from 5 years ago. And the idea is that most people overestimate what can be done in a year and underestimate what can be done in 5 years. Right. And it was crazy. I had a moment this morning where I just reflected on everything that's happened in the last 5 years and the changes. And like, I don't know if you guys if my phone's going to focus enough for you guys to see. I'm like literally Skeletor.
Wild.
And the kids are freaking tiny, but it's like we had just left New Mexico, living with my in-laws. I'm still rodeoing. Didn't have hardly any understanding around strength and conditioning at all, or nutrition, and just looking at like the last 5 years of my life from that picture now, like strength and conditioning has, it enabled us to buy our first home and then buy this home. Like so many changes happened, and I can tell you there are a lot of days I don't want to check in with clients. There are a lot of days my feelings are not to do my notifications. There are a lot of days my notifications are not to program workouts or write new programs or read research articles. Like you cannot, if you want to, and I'm not trying to say that I've been, in my mind, it's been a crazy journey, but I'm not saying everybody look at me as an example. But what I can tell you is that if you want to be moderately successful in anything you do, you have to disassociate your feelings with the basics of doing the things that need to be done. Can't do it. You'll never make it anywhere if you only do what you want to do when you want to do it. It's the crutch to success is doing the hard things even when you don't feel like it.
Yes. And then it becomes a superpower once you start doing those things over and over like that. Do hard things, and hard things don't have to be running 100 miles. It can be literally asking someone for help with something. If that's something hard for you to do, you know, it can be as simple as that. So I love that, man. I think that's awesome. We're gonna wrap it up there. That was great. That was a perfect way to wrap it up. And guys, until next time, we'll catch you later.
If you want to learn more about our coaches and program options, make sure to swing over to our website at www.championlivingfitness.com. You can fill out the Become an Athlete form to set up your free consultation and have all your questions answered by a coach.